So, good morning, my dear students of 8th standard. Today we will be studying the lesson Tribals, DIKUS, and Vision of a Golden Age. See, here there's a date 1895, so underline it. So, who was Birsa? See, he was a tribal moving about the forests of Chota Nagpur in Jharkhand. Who are tribals? Tribals basically they are the indigenous people who have their unique customs and traditions. They are recognized by their unique customs and traditions. That's why we call them tribals, and they are unique because no other every tribal community have their own unique customs. They are not the same all the time. Okay, now it is these tribals have their own blind beliefs also sometimes. So he was declared Birsa Munda. His total full name was Birsa Munda. He declared himself as God, and he said that God has appointed him to help his people. So he was born in Chota Nagpur, but his followers included from other regions also. Now, what were the problems? Why did Birsa declare him as a god? What were the problems faced by the tribals? All these things we are going to study in this lesson. Okay, so you studied about the tribal societies last years. Okay, and their customs, their traditions. You know, Indian society, how it was. Basically, it was completely different. These people were sometimes moving public also. Okay, these societies also did not have their social divisions like the settled communities. Like in India in olden times, we used to have the Kshatriyas, the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas, and the Shudras. These people did not have these divisions in the society which would alienate their brethren. Okay, they all lived together happily. Now, how did they live in their forest? You will think, how will they live in the forest? All wild animals and all are there and all that. See, basically these tribals, they live along with the animals. They respect the forest atmosphere. They are basically the protectors of the forest atmosphere. Today we call them the Adivasis and all that, but to tell you the truth, they are sometimes the environmentalists respect them as true environmentalists because they protect the forest environment. See, here you see in this page, you will see something called Zoom cultivation. What is exactly Zoom cultivation? See, in olden times, what they used to do, these tribal people, they did not know how, they did not, see, today we use the fertilizers, the chemical pesticides and all. These things were not used by the tribal societies. So what they used to do, a small portion of the forest, they used to burn down, and in the ashes only, they used to cultivate their crops. They used to plow the field, and see, basically the forest floor is rich in humus, isn't it? So for a period of 5-10 years, they used to cultivate there, and then they used to move to another piece of land. Now the land area which they have abandoned, the forest would regrow. Understand? The forest would regrow. It would be left fallow. It would regrow, and that's how they protected the forest. Today, see, Zoom cultivation is being frowned upon by the government because what happens is once the land is abandoned, settlement comes up. People build houses there. No. In those times, these tribals never built their villages and all in the land abandoned. They lived hand in hand with nature. Some used to grow crops, some were hunters and gatherers. Who are the hunters? You know, they hunt animals for survival, like gaunts and all that. They used to live in the forest. They regularly went down on collective hunts, meaning the group of villagers used to go and then they used to share the meat. So imagine they used to hunt a bison. So bison meat is huge, isn't it? Too much. So they used to share the meat amongst themselves. And gatherers meaning these forest people know the edible roots and fruits and mushrooms, so they used to gather that, and sometimes the medicinal herbs also they know, so they are called the gatherers. And what they used to do is they used to sometimes sell it in the nearby cities also. See, like the seeds of sal and mahua. Mahua flowers are collected early in the morning. Then they are fermented and used to make toddy. but the seeds are used to make cooking oil. See how they knew. And see the thorns of the thorny this one, what to say, bark of any tree, it is used as a grater. And then they used to use the wide leaves of the trees to make plates. See, that was what their environment. See, biodegradable things, not like us using plastics and all that. No, these tribal. That's why I said these tribals were known as true environmentalists. And see the kusum and matlab they used to matlab medicinal herbs and all, they used to know how they. Now, from where did these forest people get their supplies? They exchange. See, sometimes they were in need of clothes and all that. They were, see, they couldn't weave, they couldn't grow cotton in the forest, isn't it? So naturally they needed. So there used to be barter system. What is barter system? Exchange of goods for goods, not for money. So they used to exchange the forest goods for maybe sometimes for money also, but sometimes for goods also, like clothes or some other thing, like vessels. Vessels usually they used to make it their own only, but then they did odd jobs also. Sometimes they used to not only sell forest goods also, they used to make trinkets also, like beads or forest this one, what to say, elements like colorful stones and all are converted into ornaments and all that. And then they used to weave rough blankets which were used, see, like especially the Banjaras of Rajasthan, they are known to this one, what to say, do street plays and all that, just to earn money, extra money. Or sometimes they used to work. See, even in Jammu and Kashmir, see those Gujars and the Bakarwals, they come and they do your gardening and all that, isn't it? They are the nomads, they are not the tribals, they are the nomads. Just I'm giving you as an example, okay? So they used to work, but they used to never beg. Understand? So what they used to do is they used to work, they had their dignity, they used to work for. But over a period of time, when when the cities started expanding and all that, so they were forced to come down to the cities or to the towns and work as laborers, okay? Some herded animals and they started rearing animals also. They were pastoralists. See, like they used to move along with the herds. See, why they move along with the herds is they respect their animals. You see a Gujar and a Bakarwal, how he protects his herd of sheep. You have seen, isn't it? And you see the Banjaras, the Goldas, the Kuruvas and all these look after their animals from one place to another. When they move there, they move along, though the journey is arduous, there are lots of hardships, but still for the sake of their animals to find the pasture, feeding grounds and all that, they move along with their animals. Like you see the one Gujars of Punjab, the Labadis of Andhra Pradesh, the Gaddis of Kulu, the Bakarwals of Kashmir, they rear goats and sheep. And you see how healthy these animals are. They are well looked after. They search good pasture land and they move along with the pasture, this one, okay? Now, some took to over a period of time when the British, in the 19th century, from very over a period of time, the younger generation, even before the 19th century only, the younger generation, maybe they found it is easy to settle down in a certain place or settle down in villages as normal people instead of moving from one place to another. They started using the plough, started getting the rights on the land they lived on. Like the Mundas of Chota Nagpur, the land belonged to the clan as a whole. You see, it was not a personal land. If the land was there, if it was 10 acres of land, it will belong to the whole tribe also, understand? So the land would be cleared. They used to plow on the land and share the harvest amongst themselves. Some became chiefs and some became followers. Some of the people who had more land or who had more intelligence, whom the other people could follow, they became leaders. So the British officials, they started seeing these settled groups like Gonds and the Santals as more civilized than the hunters or gatherers or shifting cultivators. Why? The question is why. The question is because see, the British government wanted to tax each and every person of India right down to the grassroots level. Grassroots level, when I say, it is down to the tips of the roots of the grass. They wanted to control everybody, and they couldn't control the nomads. They used to be, today they are here, tomorrow they would be somewhere else. See, your Gujars and the Bakarwals of Kashmir, it is said that they used to move from Kashmir till Arunachal Pradesh. Before the British rule also, they used to move from one place to another. They were never found. Then whom could the British tax? Aaj yahan hai, kal wahan hai. So naturally, the settled groups were much preferred than the moving groups. So with the arrival of the British, the tribal chiefs were important people. They enjoyed certain amount of economic power and all that. But in some places, they had their own law-keeping forces and decided on the local rules of land and forest management. But under the British rule, the functions and the powers of the tribal chiefs changed considerably. They were allowed to keep their land titles, but they were not allowed to have administrative power, and they were forced to use the laws or follow the laws laid down by the British officials in India. They had to pay tax to the British, or revenue to the British, or tribute to the British, and discipline their own people on behalf of the British. They had to to tell you the truth, they lost the freedom to rule on their own tribal people. So what happened to the shifting cultivators? See, the British, what they did was, they started cutting down our virgin forests and started planting oak trees. Why did they want these oak trees? They wanted these tall, straight oak trees for shipbuilding. Now, shipbuilding, so that is the reason they cut down all our virgin forests and they started planting these oak trees. And these oak trees, the small saplings, these shifting cultivators, when they used to go to tend their cattle and all that, or graze their sheep or goats or cattle, the animals would trample on the small saplings. So these forests were made out of bounds. These tribals were not allowed in the forest. Understand? And naturally, shifting cultivation also was not being allowed by the British to the forest tribals. So the source of revenue, of income, was denied to the tribal people. Just imagine, you are not allowed to enter your own home itself. So kahin na kahin, the British were successful in settling these nomadic tribes, or these forest tribals, in a single place. And the Jhum cultivators, they were made to settle down, where they could be easily controlled. How they could be easily controlled? They were made to settle in those areas which were more drier, where there was no water. So naturally, they used to start working for the British in order to earn some money. Understand? So, but then these people also were very brave. They put up a great fight and they insisted on continuing their practice. Facing widespread protest, the British had to give up, relent. They had to allow them to continue with the shifting cultivation for a greater part. And then forest laws and their impact. As I told you just now, the British extended their control over all forests and declared that all forest is state property. Why? I have explained to you just now. They planted oak trees and all that. So here the tribals were not allowed into the forest even to collect fruits or hunt animals, or collect dry twigs for wood fire and all that. So what they used to do is, they had to enter the forest as thieves. Just imagine entering your own land as thieves, the land in which used to roam free. Once the British stopped the tribal people from living inside the forest, they faced a problem. From where would the forest department get its labor? Now, these tribal people knew the forest like the back of their hand. British, they had stopped them from getting into the forest. Now they faced another problem. They needed labor. officials were all British, but the forest rangers and all, they were all British. But who were the forest guards? They had to appoint these tribal people only as forest guards, and they paid them certain amount of money so that they would look after the the forest. And these tribals were allowed to live on the fringes or on the borders of the forest, and they were allowed to take some amount of the forest produce. And also the British, see how intelligent they were, they also ensured that these forest labor would work for the British at very cheap rates, at very cheap So what happened was, many tribal groups reacted against the colonial forest laws. They disobeyed the new rules, continued with the practices that were declared illegal, and at times rose in rebellion also. And also, such was the revolt of Songram Sangama in 1906 in Assam, and the forest satyagraha of the 1930s in the central provinces. So these people also were very brave. And you know how did they fight? They did not have guns and all that. They used to fight with the bows and arrows. The British had guns, but they fought with the help of the bows and the arrows also. Now, the problem with the trade. See, sometimes it so happens is our own people act as in order to earn money. They worked with the British people. See, these tribals knew how to rear silkworm. They knew how to rear silk cocoons and all that. See, what they started doing is, these city people, these town people or the village people started entering the forest, these traders, and they started trading with the forest people for these cocoons and all this, and the forest produce also. They used to purchase almost these cocoons, like for 1,000 cocoons they used to pay 3 or 4 rupees, and then they used to sell the same cocoons to other countries for a huge profit. And you know what they used to do? They used to give loans to these tribal people. The tribal people, being innocent, they didn't understand at first. So being innocent, what they did was, they accepted the loans. So what these tradesmen did, they said, once we buy the produce from you, your loan is repaid off. But the loan would never be repaid off. So this tribal people were tied to the tradesmen forever. Samjhe? So see, and over a period of time, these tribals came to know what was the modus operandi, that these people wanted to keep them under their debts also. So naturally, the tribals, what they did was, either they had to pay the loans, or sometimes they just left their own traditional places and they moved to other places also in search of works. Or see, even in the tea plantations also, they started working. Now you'll wonder, ma'am, where did these tea plantations come up? See, the British used to purchase tea from China. They had developed a taste for tea from China, and they had to pay in gold. China never accepted anything less than gold. Okay, so once the British started ruling our country, they saw that Eastern Ghats and the whole Shivalik mountains was advantageous for the growth of tea. So what they did was, they converted these whole ranges into tea gardens and sold to their own officials, British officials, at very low prices. And see, even today the tea has to be plucked by hand. Understand? For that they needed labor. Then who else? Those peasants who had lost their land, or these tribal people who had to move out of their forest area to escape the loan sharks, and they were appointed as tea pluckers, or to work in the tea gardens. Very low wages they were paid, and they were kept in fortified settlements. They were not allowed even to go to the market. The market used to come to the village. They were not allowed to go outside also, lest, meaning the British officials used to think, if we let them go out, they'll run away. Samjhe, these people had to live like prisoners in the fortified settlements. To tell you the truth, even today it goes on. See, sometimes you see the this one maids and the maid servants who are brought in from Assam and all that, you ask them, most of them belong to the tea gardens. They come here, they work in your houses for 1 year and all that. They earn some amount of money and go. Just ask them how much is their labor, how much money they are paid. Yes, they are paid very little amount in cash, but sometimes they are paid like family wise, they are paid rice, dal, kerosene, tea and all that, and they trade it for fruits and all that. That is a different story. Okay, sometimes it goes on till today also. So through the 19th and the 20th centuries, the tribal groups in different parts of the country rebelled against the changes in the laws, the restrictions on their practices, the new taxes that they had to pay, the exploitation by the traders and the money lenders, all these things. Not only they were rebelling against the British rule, they were rebelling against the Indian traders and the money lenders itself. Just imagine these tribals, they had to not only fight against a foreign rule, but they also had to fight against the our own people also, who were trying to hoodwink them, who were trying to cheat them. See, like you have the Santals rose in revolt in 1855. The Basta rebellion in central India broke out in 1910 and the Varli revolt in Maharashtra in 1940. And Birsa Munda led, the movement that Birsa led was one such movement. See, who was Birsa Munda? He was the son of a poor father who grew up around the forests of Bohonda, grazing sheep and playing flute and dancing in the local akhara. Forced by poverty, his father had to move from place to place looking for work. He heard tales of the Munda uprisings in the past and saw the Sirdars, the leaders of the community, urging the people to the revolt. See, he was encouraged. He studied in a missionary school and he saw how it was possible for the people to attain their freedom, that is kingdom of heaven. Their freedom meaning their forest was their heaven, so kingdom of heaven. And he later, Birsa, also spent time in the company of a prominent Vaishnav preacher. He wore the sacred thread and began to value the importance of piety meaning prayer and purity. He was influenced by the ideas that when he came in touch with during the growing years, and that is when he worked to urging his followers to recover their glorious past, and he talked of the golden age of the past where they lived freely. They constructed embankments, tapped the natural springs, and they worked hand in hand with nature, protecting the nature and also utilizing only a part of it, and thereby not being greedy enough to destroy the nature. What worried the British officials was the political aim of the Birsa movement. It wanted to drive out the missionaries, moneylenders, Hindu landlords and the government and set up Munda Raj with Birsa as its head. Now the land policies of the British were destroying the traditional land system. Hindu landlords and the moneylenders were taking over their land and missionaries were criticizing their. See, what happened was, whenever any country comes and rules over any other country, they look into the country they are invading as a lowly country. That's what the British missionaries did. They said that our practices were all savages. They said that it is the white man's duty to train us, to tame us, to civilize us. That is why. Though Birsa was arrested in 1895, he was released in 1897, but he did not let go his movement. He started mobilizing more and more people to work towards the freedom from the British rule, not only from the British rule, but also gain freedom from our own people also, like the landlords and the money lenders who were grabbing the forest land for their own greedy ends. In 1900, Birsa died of cholera and the movement faded out. However, the movement was significant because it forced the colonial government to introduce laws so that the land of tribals would not be taken away by the village landlords. Secondly, it showed once again that the tribal people had the capacity to protest against the injustice and express their anger against the colonial rule. They did not they did not have guns and cannons and their vehicles and all that. They simply had their spears and bows and arrows, and they fought with the most primitive weapons. And they wrote a statement in the British history in India that we too can fight and gain our freedom also.